Welcome back to PSS, everybody. In today's video, we're going to continue our escapades through the lands of free VST plugins, but with Ignite amps. Now, full disclosure before we begin this video, I'm not getting paid or compensated or anything to feature these VSTs. I just like them a lot and I use them in my personal work. So, figured I might as well show you how to get a good sound out of those using pretty much exclusively Ignite amps products and make a lot of cool stuff. So yeah, sit through this really horrendously edited 2 minutes of jamming and see you afterwards and I'll show you how to do it. So if you made it this far into the video, I'm assuming that you actually want to know how to get that sound. It's pretty simple. The first thing you need to start off with, though, at least for the song that I just played, is at least 7-string guitar. I did not touch the blower 8-string. I also play with a pretty thick pick in that playthrough. Doesn't matter, I switch picks around all the time. This is a Dunlop sculpted True Tone 1.3mm, really thick. I play bass picks a lot on an 8-string as well, but it doesn't really matter. Just to let you know, that's what I started out with before we do get into the VST world. So, take your guitar and let's go. So I totally haven't already done this part and, you know, screwed up a mic setting and didn't record any commentary. So, let's go track by track and I'll show you the signal chains and how to achieve the sound I got. First things first, you'll want to go to igniteamps.com or the link I put in the description and download the VSTs that you are seeing on your screen now. So I really only use 4 that they offer. They offer a bunch, and none of them are bad. These are all fantastic, but for the purposes of this video and for what I usually use in my productions, these are the ones we'll be snagging. If you already got some downloads from a previous video or videos that I did using the 8-string and bass VSTs, you'll probably have a bunch of these already. So let's start with the rhythm tracks, which sound like this. Of course, those are double tracked and just panned 90% on each side. So taking a single guitar, that's what we're going for. And pretty similar signal chain as before that we've done in guitars. I still have a mono to stereo, and that is for good reason. This time, actually, had a commenter point out and suggested something that would allow me to record in mono, because before I tried that and I was just getting noise, so I found the setting that was screwing it up. So I appreciate the feedback. And that does work, but I actually did want stereo tracks for this video, and you'll see why momentarily, so you can ignore that for the rhythm stuff. Starting out with a noise gate, of course, we're going to have a really quick release, not a whole lot on the threshold because it is not a really noisy input. Next thing, we're using my favorite boost pedal, the Tyrant Screamer TSB1, which is one of my favorite things by Ignite amps. As I've stated in the past, my favorite feature on this is the sweep function, which gets rid of a lot of the low end and bass and gives it a lot of grind in the front end of the amp. Tightens up the initial picking a lot as well. So really, really good plug-in. I use that all the time in my real productions. Emissary is their guitar amp, and they've actually built one of these as well as their bass amp VST, and it sounds absolutely wicked. Has a good clean channel that I use on the clean track, has a really good smooth lead channel that I make pretty dirty and crunchy with this sweep function on this pedal. I really like this amp for death metal sounds and just the kind of smooth runs you heard in this song. It's not really all that good for, I feel, 8-string work unless it just fits your style, but it's still one of the most high quality amp VSTs out there. So we go to the lead channel. I keep all the switches down. You can put up shape or deep or bright. I use shape on the lead, and I'll show you why momentarily. Really high gain. Crank the bass because I've taken it out in the sweep, and I'll show you what that does when we turn that off. Keep the mids and treble pretty much the same, and a little bit of depth because just to add a little bit more bass back. So let's play that track, and I'll show you exactly the effect the sweep has on it. So you can hear it does get a lot crunchier and more heavy, in my opinion. And of course, the way I'm recording this audio in Cubase, it's murdering the sound quality. So don't take this as the final product. You can listen to the playthrough if you wanted a real example of what these sound like done. So we're just taking these step by step. Last in the rhythm signal chain is, without a doubt, the most important part of any guitar tone, and that is the NAD-IR impulse response convolver. And for this, I'm only using one cab, but this does have the ability to use 2 cab impulses. This is the one I use on basically everything. It's a great balance of performance and features. I think Poland has one that goes up to like 8 that you can mix, and that's just ridiculous to me. This thing is more than enough functionality for me. So I use just a Mesa cabinet. I really like these Brohim, or however the hell you say that. Generally mispronounce those. Number 6 sounds really good for this instance. I was playing with a Marshall cab, but just decided to keep it 100% balance over here, so it works fine that way. And you can do a lot of really cool things in stereo that I'll show you in a minute, which is why I wanted these tracks in stereo. So that's basically the rhythm sound, and we take that, record it again for the right sound, or the right side, and pan them. And for the EQ, it's a simple high pass at 100 hertz, a little bit of a scoop at around 500, a little bit of a boost around the 5500 hertz range, not a whole lot. You could actually probably get by with that, and if I just played with the low pass at 8000, it'd probably do the same thing. But that's pretty simple. A lot of the times I have something that dips in the 4000, 3800 hertz, and didn't really hear those frequencies that annoy me a lot. So this is what you're going to get for the guitars. If I played with the cabinets and the EQ, I could probably get even a more realistic setting, but to me, that achieved what I wanted, and I really like the sound. So that's rhythm. I'll show you clean real quick because it's fairly similar, fairly simple. Gate, I throw up the release a little bit, don't need a whole lot of that. For the boost pedal, you don't even need this, but the kind of cleans I like isn't exactly clean. I like it to break up a little bit. So I do throw a bit of a boost pedal in the front. I don't need sweep for the cleans, and I keep that at 0 because of that. So use the clean channel of the Emissary, which is really good clean channel, by the way, especially if you just want really pretty, smooth, clean electric guitar. I think this is a really good VST to do it in, but generally I don't want that, so I threw something a bit dirty on the front end, and sounds really good. Between that and the amp, I have a chorus, and for your cleans, you can throw whatever effects and crap you want on it. This is, of course, built into Cubase. Whatever you're using, you can do whatever you want. Now, this is what I really like about NADIR, is the ability to go stereo, and what that does is it puts one cabinet impulse on one side and one on the other, and you get to control the panning. So I got these at about 86% panned in each direction, but another cool thing you can do is have one of them be delayed. So I impose a 5 to 10 to even 20 millisecond delay on the other side, and it just sounds really alive. And I'm going to get rid of the effects, that way you can tell exactly what it does. By imposing that delay and not just having them in mono, and that sounds boring in mono, but in stereo with a delay on one side, it just especially when they're panned and mixed a little bit in the center, it just sounds really old school. That's what I loved about some records in like the early 70s, even early 80s, is just how imperfect they were. A lot of times when they were, first experimenting with reamping and mixing stuff, mixing different guitar sounds, there would be delay between them or really heavily panned from one side to the other that wouldn't be perfect. And it just sounded so lively. Gave a lot of energy to those albums that were otherwise not really high, gain or whatever. And I love that effect, especially for cleans and leads, because it can really, for demo work especially, cut out a lot of multi-tracking. For this clean, it sounds, it's enough to just have one track to me. So I really like that feature, and I exploit the same thing with the lead track. I also have a reverb at the end, which I just stole from Cubase's selection they give you of presets. For the lead, it's pretty much the same thing, except throw up the release on the gate quite a bit higher, just to give it more room to sustain. The boost pedal is the same as the rhythm. This is almost the same, except I throw up the mids a bit, as well as turn on the shape, and that gives it just higher separation from the rhythm track. So let's play it. So that's with shape activated, and this is without. Without. So it's like a tone stack that other amps would call it, and it's kind of just like the magical EQ switch. And some amps I actually like to use the shape or contour or whatever they call it, tone stack, for the rhythm sound, and then turn it off for leads. Generally, I'll turn it on or off between the two just to give it a bit higher separation. It makes EQing easier as well. And that's the EQ on the leads, pretty standard low pass, to give it a really, really heavy high mid, low mid sound, which is exactly what this would entail. Then I do the same thing as I did on the clean track. I use that needs to be high value. I didn't catch that before. Cool. So I pan two impulses, one almost entirely left, one almost entirely right, and this one I have 15, almost 16 milliseconds of delay on the right side, so it sounds really spacey, especially with the ping pong delay that I have at the end, which is, once again, I feel like makes a single lead or single solo sound really lively, without a whole lot of work. So I really like the effect that gives. And I forgot the EQ on the clean. It's really simple, just boosted stuff I wanted to hear and took out stuff I didn't. Now for the bass, this is quite a bit of a departure from the way I usually record bass, and it's because this is a different type of music. I generally do a split track, a la the video that I did with Modern Metal Free Bass, whatever the hell I called it. I'll put a card around here if I remember to. But generally I have a low thundering, bass tone, and then I split it into a really high distortion, and that makes a really good pairing for 8-string guitars. For this, I just wanted just thunder, basically, and a little bit of dirt, so excuse the absolutely terrible bass playing on here. Hear that? That's super original. Absolutely crushing. So basically, it's the same principle as the low end that I would normally do, without quite as much dirt, I think. So pretty low release on the gate. Compressor, very important for metal bass. I throw that all the way up to 4 for the ratio. Keep everything else the same. I do use a boost pedal, the good old-fashioned TSB1. They don't have a bass-specific pedal. A lot of VST creators do something like a pre-EQ for basses. They don't have that on Ignite, but this thing works just fine for my needs. Keep tone in the middle and sweep all the way down to preserve the bass, the low end of the bass. And this is another one of my favorites from Ignite. This is their SHB1. They've actually built this thing, and it was created first as a VST, I think, and then tweaked by whoever they were, contracted under. And they made it, and it sounds absolutely incredible. One of the best sounding bass amps I've ever heard. It's wicked. So for this, I have the deep and shape switches on. It depends, once again, on just what I'm recording, whether those go on. But I legitimately use this amp on basically any bass track. It is that good. I have gain and bass all the way up because I really want a modern, just thunderous bass sound. Mid stays the same, a little bit of treble. Balance gives it's kind of like your presence or contour. Keep it on the low end. You'll see why in a moment. Volume just at your discretion. And for the cab convolver, which once again I use on basically everything, I have an Ampeg 8x10 impulse that I use. Really good one. I didn't feel like this needed to be blended with anything else, so I just kept that. You can also find that in the description below. So let's see what that sounds like with and without the pedal, and we'll play around with the balance as well to show you how it it affects the overall sound. So this is off, on, sweep, down. So yeah, without this pedal, you get a really old school 90s Cannibal Corpse bass metal bass sound, which is not necessarily a bad thing at all. It sounds really good. I just wanted something that was more dirty in this mix, so you can definitely get a mean sound without having to do anything before going into this amp. And sweep, I turn it up for the high distortion tracks on my other music. For this, I just kept it low because I wanted something, since I wasn't matching the same octave as the guitars, I just wanted to capture that low end really well. And this is what the balance does. It's almost like a band pass is what it sounds like to me, but it's probably just some form of contouring. And like I said, for the high tracks on my other music, I'll crank that just to make sure I'm getting just the nastiest high frequencies I can. And for the EQ, it's pretty simple. Bump on 200 hertz, get a little bit of a shelf going, and a scoop at about 2000 hertz to separate it from the guitar a little bit. And that's it. The drums I made the same way with custom samples, as you can see in the drum VST video. Or not drum VST, well, drum samples with Beatcraft. That's the words I'm trying to say. And it all comes together to sound something like that. I don't think that's too bad for just hour or so of messing around and no real mastering anything. I'll prove that I have no pitch correction or anything going on, no final EQ. I just have a maximizer, which basically just makes it's like a compressor, but not. And saves a lot of work to me for these quick little demo things. And that's it. And I really like Ignite stuff. Like I said, I'm not getting compensated to promote this stuff. I just really, really like it, and I use it all the time. I use basically all but the Emissary in almost every track or almost every production I do, and sometimes I do use the Emissary for leads and stuff. It's just not as harsh of an amp as I like for my high gain sound, but it does come in handy. And if you're into that type of music where it does work, it's one of the best VSTs out there for it. But I've said in the past, this is one of my favorite boost pedals, if not my favorite out right now, my favorite convolver, and without a doubt, my favorite bass amp. So Ignite is awesome, and especially for free. So I would definitely go recommend you check them out if you're looking for some new VST toys to play with, and we'll be sure to explore others, excuse me, including TSE Audio and Poland, and probably a couple more if I can remember who all makes what, because there's some also really good stuff that they make as well. So yeah, hope you enjoyed these. Leave comments, questions below. If you do have them, go check out other videos if you've not seen them, including the 8-string guitar VST video, the modern metal bass video, the Beatcraft drums, and I think I'm done being crappy and plugging myself. So that should do it. Thanks for listening and watching and paying attention, and we will see you next time. Appreciate it. Bye.